Awesome. Thanks for the introduction. It's really ironic that we have Sparks for our upcoming Spark test. So can we get the house lights up just a little bit? And you guys all should have a yellow brochure or pamphlet in front of you. That's what we're going to be working on today. And we're basically going to be using this to judge your own brand. So there won't be any push-ups that are involved in this test. But it might be painful for some of you when we're done after we go through this exercise. So I'm going to try to get through a little bit of an introduction about branding, and then we're going to get right to the test where you be grading yourself. So have a photo of your truck wrap handy on your phone. If you want to get opinions from the person you're sitting next to as well as you grade yourself, you could certainly do that as well. If any of you don't have that yellow brochure, just raise your hand and someone on my team will get you a couple of copies. So just keep your hands up until they make their way over to you. So a little bit about me. There we go. So I run a branding agency based out of New Jersey called Kickcharge Creative. I started that when I was probably 26 years old in 1995, so we're coming up on 30 years. My first truck that I actually hand lettered, you'll see a picture of me lettering that. It was for a plumbing company. I was 16 years old at the time. I was rocking a pretty killer mullet at the time as well, apparently. And you know, the beautiful thing about what we get to do is we get to change the lives of so many companies that we get to work with. And it's just an amazing thing that I'm just so grateful for. I wrote several books. For you people that were VIP, you should have gotten a copy of the book. If any of you also would like a copy, just stop by our booth. If you need me to autograph it, it'll be worth hundreds as soon as I die, so that'll be really cool for you as well. And speaking of dying, I always like to give thanks to the fact that I'm standing here today. It was 1,326 days ago that I had life-saving surgery. I had some blockages in my widowmaker, and apparently I shouldn't be here today, but they saved my life, and for that I'm truly grateful, and I try to give thanks every day for the fact that I'm still here, being able to do what I love and being able to change lives in the process. So I want you to look carefully at this next slide, and I'm going to cycle through it. And I want you to look at that. Right? Just take a look at that real quick, right? This is what's happening out on the streets every day as far as impressions that are being made. One of those looks a little different than the other ones. And when you see it in action, it becomes even more apparent. So this is a photo taken of these trucks at the supply house. Clearly, one of them does not look like the others. And this is a lot of what we're going to talk about today is the idea of how do we build brands that become sticky? How do people remember your name when they need service? And it's not for when they go on Google and they type in moving company near me. I want them to know your name immediately because you're going to show up higher on Google for a lot less money, right? So you could see the van. This is actually a company based right here in Tampa that we had done their branding for. So the notion here is how do we live rent-free in someone's minds? The space in someone's mind is the most valuable piece of real estate you guys can own. So I want you to think about that in terms of your brand. How do I occupy space in someone's mind with my brand? So when they're thinking of using me, they remember my name. They remember what I do, and they simply type in my name. So thinking about what a brand is what people say about you behind your back. It's how they would describe the experience of working with your company. Every time they interact with your brand, whether it's on social media, whether they see your truck in the neighborhood, whether they see an ad in the newspaper or a radio spot, impressions are being formed about who you are as a company. Everything your brand should be doing is helping to control what someone believes about the experience if they chose to hire you. Okay? It's a great song by this band called Suicidal Tendencies. I'm probably dating myself maybe a little bit, but they have a song called They're Effing With Me Subliminally. And if you think about everything that we're doing, that is exactly what we're doing. I'm trying to have them believe something about the experience before you guys get even to answer the phone. I'm trying to have Mrs. Jones believe something positive about if she chose to hire you, what that experience would look like. So I always like to say weak branding inspires no one except one entity. Who is that entity that weak branding inspires?
Ourselves.
Google. Google loves weak brands. They make a ton of money off of companies with weak brands because you're fighting now to have your name show up as a paid listing, okay? Mrs. Jones literally probably has no clue who you are and what you can do for her. And Google loves you for that because you're going to spend so much money getting to the top of the listings for paid ads. Interesting statistics, 84% of the people that you are trying to reach do not know your name when they're searching for a provider of your service. And other thing that's interesting is 80% of the purchasing decisions are made by women. So what does your brand do? Does your brand speak to women? Is it done in a way that makes her feel confident in your service? Is it done in a way that makes them feel like these are the type of people I want coming to my home, to move my stuff, to touch all my stuff, right? So thinking about brands in terms of the bias that consumers have about contractors in general. They're afraid of who's coming to their home. They're afraid of being ripped off and not treated fairly. They have all these fears. So what are we doing in our branding to address those fears? What are we doing to make sure that they feel confident in our service? Okay? Thinking about how branding affects so many other things, you think about average tickets. And you think about why it's hard sometimes to get a higher average ticket. Well, a lot of times it's hard to get a higher average ticket because we don't look like a company that deserves to be paid more than someone else. And a lot of that has to do with the branding. A lot of it has to do with how we look to them, right? So the brand doesn't make people believe there's a reason why they should spend more with you. So thinking about branding basics. Number one, make sure your branding is speaking to women. Number two, the truck wraps that you guys have on the streets are probably the single most cost-effective medium to get your name out into the community. Most of them are not done very well, sadly. But cost per impression, there is not a single other means of advertising that is less costly. So make the most of that. A couple of examples of a brand that just launched and what it did to organic search results. And this is what I'm talking about, winning on the streets and how important that is. So look at the increase in traffic that happened literally after launching this brand for this roofing company. And another example of a company for a home service company, literally one day after launch. This is another company right here in Jacksonville, Florida. 1,500 branded keyword searches for their name. Imagine if you had 1,500 people typing in your name and you show up essentially for free on Google. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. The criteria that goes into making a brand that's sticky and that people can remember. And keeping in mind one thing too. Your success and everything that you've done to this moment in time is great. And it's awesome. But a lot of times it's not going to take you to where you want to go. You know, Tommy Mello was up here speaking before. That's a company that we rebranded when he was at $40 million in revenue. So who at $40 million in revenue is saying to themselves, my brand isn't good enough. I need to make a change to my brand. I need to improve my brand because it's not going to take me to where I want to go. Well, not a lot of people are going to do that at $40 million in revenue. But 4 years later, they're at almost $300 million in revenue. So clearly, that comfort zone holds a lot of people back because they look at any success that they have at that given moment as the reason why they should never make a change. So again, just keep in mind, what got you here typically is not going to get you to where you want to go. And I always like to say that your success, while admirable, success in spite of a poor brand is not a valid reason to perpetuate it. And honestly, the most expensive logo you will ever buy is one that you've paid the least for. And that may sound a little bit strange, but when you think about the effects of weak brands, lower average tickets, lower booking and close rates, your higher marketing spends, even recruitment. You think about recruitment, and that's probably a big challenge, is how do we get more people that want to work for us? Well, do you look like a company that people want to work for? So think about how it affects recruitment, and again, what it does to your internal culture. Great quote from Roy Williams, who wrote a very famous advertising book. He says, overspending on advertising is the tax businesses spend for being unremarkable. The more unremarkable you are, the more invisible you are in your community. When you think about people, they want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So what are we doing within our own communities to make us visible, to make people know, like, and trust us, to control those impressions. So just distilling, again, the idea of this brand, I talk about this brand wheel, and in the center of that brand wheel is your logo, and then all the other touch points that a customer would interact go around that wheel. If you screw up the center of that wheel, your hub, that wheel will not spin very effectively, which basically translates into you will need to spend more money on your marketing then. All right? So now we're going to get into it looking at our own brands. The first thing that we're going to look at that you're going to judge is your brand name. Okay? So these are the criteria that I want you to think about as you think about your own brand name. Okay? Is it easy to spell? Is it memorable? Does it use jargon or terms that people don't understand? Can you own your own brand name? Meaning, are there other companies that are similarly named to you that get confused with your own name? Is it a last name or initial-based brands? Typically, the hardest brands to get sticky in someone's minds are last name brands and initial-based brands. Does it evoke an obvious visual? Meaning, I say the name of this company and I immediately think of something that logo should look like. That helps it to become sticky and live in their minds a lot easier. Does it sound like a description and not necessarily a brand name, like the greatest moving company? Well, that sounds more like a description than it does an actual brand name. And is it based on a location? Location-based brand names are sometimes challenging because as you try to expand your territory or move out of that town or that city that you named your company after, people don't think you work in that area. So to give you an example, Square Cow Movers, if you just told me that name, I would immediately think, well, their logo probably has a square cow. Like, oh my God, well, that's painfully obvious, isn't it? Well, yes, it is painfully obvious, but that also makes it easier for someone to remember. Just give you an example here, a company we rebranded called RW Garage Doors. Why would I ever remember that? But could I remember Right Way Garage Doors? Yeah, well, Right Way now gives me a promise. Right Way makes me think that I'm going to get a really good job. Another company, PMA Mechanical, initial based. Again, really, really challenging to have people remember. We rebranded them as Grasshopper. They did almost $19 million more in 3 years after changing the name of their company. Grasshopper. Simple, easy to remember. Garage Door Solutions sounds more like a description, not like a brand name. We rebranded them and renamed them Jolly Goat. It's a lot easier to remember Jolly Goat than it is to remember Garage Door Solutions. It sounds more like a description. So, rate yours, and let me know what you come up with. So basically, 10 would be you have all those things, and in the middle would be things you don't have. Anybody think they have a 10? What do you got? Dan the Moving Van. All right, I like that. Anyone else scoring high? All right, next one, tagline. So do you have a unique tagline? Or would your tagline work for any other moving company? So think about that. Do you have a really, really unique tagline that no one else can basically make claim to? Does it help establish what the promise is? Does it help establish what it is that I think I'm going to get from you if you chose to hire me? So one example here, and I think these guys are here, Big League Movers. You guys are here. I think I saw somebody from Big League Movers. Follow us to Major League Service. It's like genius. It totally reflects back to their name, and it gives me an idea of what I might expect to get if I chose to hire them. Another example here of a poor one is experience the difference. Woo, experience the difference. I can't wait to experience the difference. Well, anybody could say that, and it doesn't really mean much. The rebrand was, with us, everything is just peachy. Now it reflects back to the visuals, it reflects back to the name, and it makes a lot more sense. It's not very generic. Zest, refreshingly great service. Well, that's kind of cool. That makes sense. Summit, your home comfort destination. All right. So you guys, if you have things like great service since 2005, not very good. If you have free estimates, not very good. So score yourselves on that. See where you guys land on that. All right, next one, logo itself. So is the logo unique or is it generic? Is it clip art or is it original, meaning somebody actually created it? Was it built in AI? If your logo is built using AI, The challenge with that is you can't actually ever trademark it, and someone else could use literally the same exact piece of art, so you have no rights to it. Does it say LLC or Inc.? Another sort of rookie mistake. You should never have LLC or Inc. in your actual logo. Does it connect to the viewer on a deeper level? So you see a lot of moving company logos that kind of look like this. So if yours kind of looks like that, it's maybe not going to score so high. Again, if you're in HVAC, you see a lot of sun and snowflakes and things like that. Same theory, right? If it looks the same as everyone else, why would I ever remember yours versus one of your competitors? This is an example of just one that I found online. I think the name of this company is One Nation. I'm not trying to be critical of it, but just the brand itself, the logo itself doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the tagline says, "Our family do it right," and it should be "does it right." So it's a minor challenge there. My Air Systems, very generic, right? The name's not good. We renamed them to McAwesome. I think I would remember seeing this van instead of this van, right? So score yours, see how your logo matches up based on those criteria. Anybody scoring a 10 on that or feel like they got a 10? You guys are pretty tough on yourselves here. Okay, audience appeal, right? So we talked earlier about who does the brand appeal to, right? So does it appeal to women and connect to them in a meaningful way? Does it help the homeowner feel at ease with whoever is showing up at their home? Remember, we're trying to control what they feel about the experience before they get to experience you. Does it help counter the bias that they have against contractors in general? They're scared, they're worried, they want to make sure that they're going to get taken care of. So just compare kind of this brand that we created for this heating and air conditioning company in Tucson, where you have one that's so cute, right? They're not coming to my house to rip me off. Like, that's not going to happen with this cute walrus. It used to be called Williams Mechanical. You could see the old logo with the sun and the snowflakes. Again, not a lot of interest. But this guy's coming to your house, he's going to beat the shit out of you. You know? And a lot of people market this way. They've got these big hulking mascots that are all muscled. And I guess, I get it. You need muscles to move the furniture. I get it. Right? But we don't have to scare the shit out of Mrs. Jones in the process. So this is another one that I found online, and I'm sorry if you guys are here. I'm not trying to pick on you if Hulk is here. But I don't know that I want Hulk moving my fine china. Right? Now, it's memorable, and you could do something with a name like that, but do it in a way that you don't scare who you're trying to sell to. Right? So some low-scoring examples, again, just that muscled look, or bulldogs that feel like they might be aggressive, things like that. And just try to think more about brands that would be a little bit softer, a little bit more friendly, right? Friendly is a good idea to have for your logo. And you guys can score yourself on that criteria and see where you guys land on that. So brand promise. Again, I know nothing about your company except what I've seen online, or what I've seen on the street, or what I see on my neighbor's driveway. Visually, what is the promise? Right? Verbally, what is the promise inferred in your actual name? Do I expect a great experience from the start, or do I have to prove that great experience after I'm there? Ideally, we want to control what that homeowner believes they're going to get before we even get there. Now, this is a truck that I found online. There's nothing really terrible about this, but there's no promise inferred here. Unless I happen to know Michael Brooks Moving, and they've been in my community for 50 years, and somehow I know 10 people that use them, maybe then I have an impression of what the experience might be, but I don't otherwise. So if you say, hey, I'm from Michael Brooks Moving, okay, I don't necessarily know anything bad or anything good from you telling me that. But yet, look at this one. Okay, I don't know anything at all, honestly, about Piece of Cake Moving, except what I saw online. But in my mind, I say to myself, shit, I gotta move. That really sucks. And these people say that they could make it a piece of cake. That's exactly what I really want from my moving experience. I really want everything to go smoothly. And that's kind of in their name. That's what they say that they do, right? So thinking about your name in that sense, right? Another company we rebranded, Garage Door Doctor, which is a great name, but the brand looks awful, right? Doesn't look professional. And this is the rebrand. And the beauty of this too, average tickets up 60%. They didn't change anything at all about how they operated except how they were perceived. And the homeowners believed that there was a reason that they should pay a premium for their service. They went from $4 million to pacing $12 million in 2 years after rebranding, and from 500 to 3.5 in EBITDA in 1 year, okay? So again, look at your own brand and see how you guys score on that particular criteria. All right, next thing, super important, colors. Huge, huge, huge. Can you own your own brand colors? Is there anyone else in your market that has the same exact brand colors as you? In an ideal world, you have the only use of those colors in your market. So every time someone sees your truck in those unique brand colors, they think of only you and no one else. That's typically why, we do a lot of HVAC brands, and I hate red, white, and blue. It's not because I'm unpatriotic. It's because I can't own those colors, because there's 10 other competitors using those same exact colors. So thinking about your brand colors, do you own them in your market? Can you own them in your market? Looking at Wade's brand, which he does a great job with, purple and apple green. There's probably not too many moving companies that have purple and apple green. And coincidentally, this is a moving company that we did with purple and apple green outside of Philadelphia. And they literally own these colors. The billboards, the sight signs, the trucks, the uniforms, all use those colors. And there isn't a single roofing company in the Philadelphia market that is using those colors. So think about colors in a way that you can own your colors. If you have generic colors or colors that feel like very common, very overused, it's very difficult for someone to look at that color scheme and immediately associate that color scheme with your brand colors. So again, a couple examples, just kind of black and red, red, white, and blue. Those colors tend to not be as ownable. So think about your own color schemes and see how you guys score yourself on that. Okay, seventh thing, stickiness. How likely would it be for someone that would remember your brand name and logo? Is your brand memorable? Is there something unique about what you're projecting on your vehicles, on your trucks, on your website that would cause someone to remember having seen it before? Colors obviously play a role in that. The uniqueness of the actual logo play a role in it. The name plays a role in that, okay? Do the visuals connect with that viewer on a deeper level again? Is there a reason why someone would go out of their way to actually look at your truck and turn their head? I talk about this thing in my book called what I call white van syndrome. And it's the same for you guys. The idea that if your truck is white, it just basically blends in with what everyone else is doing. At this point, if you're not wrapping your trucks, I really think it's a huge opportunity for you to do something that is certainly more disruptive. This is a brand that we renamed that we call 24/7 HVAC, which was kind of strange because they didn't actually provide 24/7 service. So we changed the name to Hummingbird. Again, a very unique palette, a name that was specifically chosen because we wanted to appeal to women, and a color palette that was very specifically chosen because we wanted to appeal to women. Another company here with just kind of that common black and red colors, and we rebranded them to Rise and Shine with this big rooster. Again, much more sticky, and they had revenue increases, 44% increase in the 2 years, which is great for them. And then I spoke earlier about the results for Bueller. Again, all those branded keyword searches coming in because the brand is so unique, so memorable. A couple other examples here. Hey. I lost my clicker. It's not advancing. There we go. Still not advancing. Go ahead. There you go. Okay. So score yourselves on that one. We got 2 more to go, or 3 more to go. All right, next one, vehicle wraps. Okay. So what impression does the vehicle wrap leave? Is it clear to the viewer your brand name? One of the issues you see quite often is just legibility. Like I can't read what the actual truck says because there's too many things going on. It's very cluttered. The brand is not focused. I will tell you this, you cannot have an effective truck wrap without a great logo. It's one of the things that will never ever work. So again, is the truck unique in your market or does it blend in with everyone else? You go to the next one. Just an example, again, that whole white van syndrome, the whole blending syndrome. And then the next one for Roadway, you can see, again, the uniqueness of their color palette and how well that looks. Very distinct colors here, okay? Very easy to read. You could go to the next one. You got a new clicker for me? Sweet, that's all right. This is an example of, again, something that feels like it's very disruptive, but it's super hard to actually read the name of the company, right? And this guy used to say, Dan, everyone says they see my trucks all over. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they do. I don't think anyone knows exactly what you do or what the name of your company is, like sort of minor detail there, right? So we fixed it, and we made it Jay's. It used to be called Jay's HVAC. It's somewhere in the middle of that mess is the actual name of the company. But we just went super clean with it. Easy to spell, easy to read, and I could connect the J's with the bird, right? I can make a visual connection, and you could see what the rest of his fleet looks like. You know, another example here, this company, Pro Garage Doors. You know, and the notion of becoming 5 Mile famous. What if everyone within 5 miles of your home base actually knew what you guys did? And how do we become 5 Mile famous? Well, this guy literally was in the same community. He had a storefront, and he had his trucks parked out. He had his signs up there, and he was there for 5 years. And then he went with this brand, and people thought it was a brand new company. It was like, I never heard of you before, because he was blending in. You know, why would I give that a second look, right? So grade yourselves on that. You know, how well does the truck really stand out? Does it have all those things we want to see in a brand? Next thing to think about, too, is consistency. So if I were to go to your website, and then I saw your truck, and then I saw one of your guys in uniform, and then you handed me a brochure and a business card, do all those things look like they were all coming from the same place? Or is it more a hodgepodge of different people interpreting what your logo should look like and what your brand color should be and what fonts you should use? So how consistent are you so that every single touch point that Mrs. Jones hits is consistent, is saying the same story, presenting the same visuals, okay? So no matter where they interact, it's the same. They know it's coming from you, okay? So this is kind of like a hodgepodge of a lot of different things. And this is an example of somebody that we did the branding for, and you could see how every single piece of their branding matches. So that's their logo, that's their truck, this is their brochure, their site sign, their stationery, their direct mail, their equipment stickers, uniforms, door hangers, social media. Every single place that you would hit for their company is going to be consistently using the same colors, fonts, graphics, images. This is another example, too, for Apex Plumbing. Same thing. Everything matches. Everything is synchronized. All right, that's the last one. No, we got one more, sorry. So score yourself on that. Are you consistent in how your brand is being communicated in all your marketing channels? The last one here is years in use. And this one is a little bit harder to benchmark exactly because there's some companies that have been using their logo and have been around for a really long time, but they still have poor branding, right? So a little bit subjective here, but longevity is only one of the benchmarks to measure how much equity you actually have in your current brand, okay? So sometimes you could be a 50-year-old company with a really weak brand that no one still knows about, right? So you have to kind of benchmark that a little bit, but again, the weaker the brand, the less relevant longevity is. So 0 to 2 years, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, 15 years. And if it's 15 years and you're well branded, then yeah, that's a 10. But it's 15 years of we're kind of blending in and we're not really standing out, that's not going to score as high. And just to kind of give you an example of this company here has actually been in business for over 140 years. But looking at it, I can't really get there. I don't necessarily feel like this is a company that's been around a long time. It kind of looks like maybe they just started, right? So when we rebranded them, we leveraged the notion of history and heritage, and we made it look like a company that had that heritage. And we came up with the tagline, Minnesota's original since 1883. They were the first plumbing company that had a license in Minnesota. And we said, why aren't we leveraging that in your marketing channel? So if you have history, leverage it and use it in your marketing, okay? So think about yours, how many years you've been in business, and then see if you come up with a score for that. And add up your scores then. Got Judge Judy there. And here is sort of where I think you guys can use some, basically a grading scale. So how many here are 0 to 25? Oof, sorry, man. 26 to 50? All right, a few more. 51 to 75? All right, you guys are doing good. And 76 to 100. Awesome, that's great. So, like I said, this is a link to my book. We do have some copies here at my desk. I hope I got us a little bit back on schedule. Sorry if I went a little bit fast, but I was just trying to get us a little bit back on schedule. And if you guys have any questions for me or you want me to look at anything on your brand, just stop by our table outside. And listen, Faith and Wade, listen, thank you so much for having me here today to speak. And I hope you guys got something out of this. And I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you.